I am Miarita, I am 26 years old, and I am an entertainer and also a sex worker. People think sex work is just got to do with sex. No, it could be a companion, Sometimes, people feel lonely. I have been assaulted, It's more than a harassment actually, where a client actually pull out the condom without me noticing it. It's actually illegal. I know a lot of friends who experience the same thing, who are not able to voice up publicly. The politics of sex in Singapore is that even though sex work is legalized, we sex workers are having a harder time to access rights that everyone else enjoys.
In Singapore, state-regulated brothels exist in designated red light areas, making it legal for local and foreign sex workers to operate. Rebecca has been a professional escort for the past 5 years. Her work is technically legal in Singapore, but most activities associated with it, illegal, even putting up online ads.
I believe the reason why the Singapore government has legalized sex work but has criminalized all other aspects of it is because they just want to make sure that it's not 100% underground, because that actually makes it harder to catch these people who are committing actual vice activities like trafficking or coercion into sex work. So it's legalized, but many other aspects are criminalized. We can be prosecuted for any other sort of activities. If they want to nail you down with an offense, they can. So what you see here on this table is just a very small preview of my entire sex toy and lingerie collection. I have a lot of personal commitments like a daytime job, as well as family who live here, and I would like to keep the two lives separate. That's why I have a separate persona that people know me by. So for this set, it was actually a gift from a client, and of course I modeled it for him. The service that I commonly provide for clients is known as the girlfriend experience, where I interact with a client like a regular couple would. What is involved in it is a lot of kissing, a lot of cuddling, a lot of hand holding. I'm usually very affectionate and attentive to my clients. I would say the biggest prejudice towards sex workers in Singapore is that our labor isn't recognized as such. We are seen as just having fun or being forced to do it, or people like me who must be really greedy, therefore driven to commit such immoral acts, without really considering the fact that we also deserve to work in an environment that protects us from getting assaulted.
Assaults against sex workers are common. Out of the 51 cases Project X assisted in 2020, 12 of them were reportable crimes that include financial violence, sexual violence, and physical abuse. But legal recourse isn't easy.
In April 2021, there was this case about this man called De Beers, who essentially raped multiple girls via deception. He was pretending to be an agent for rich sugar daddies and used that to lie to these women to obtain sex from them. And he also blackmailed them after getting their nudes and filming the actual sex acts. It's about consent, right? A sex worker can be raped as long as they don't consent at all. I think people tend to forget that consent is a continuous thing and not like a one-time agreement. We also have a right to consent to whether we want to have sex with a client or not. However, the Singapore government doesn't really acknowledge it as rape. They categorize it as like assault or intent to harm in a more general sense, as opposed to criminalizing it as a sex offense.
The accused pleaded guilty to 10 charges, including criminal intimidation, cheating, and possession of obscene photos for circulation. None of these charges are considered sexual offences.
Most of us do not come forward with it because we are more worried about being prosecuted for some other derivative offense that arise from like these gray areas within Singapore's laws towards sex work. And we don't know which one they're going to use to prosecute us instead of helping us.
This incident of harassment towards sex workers is just one of the many cases that made it to the headlines. According to a report by Project X, 3 in 4 crimes against sex workers go unreported.
I have been assaulted where a client actually pulled out the condom without me noticing it. And the funny thing is, this client, I had him as a client when I was 18. And then guess what? He did it again on the second time that he met me. I was 24, 25. It took me about 30 minutes in spending time with him and then doing it with him only to realize that he was the one when I was 18 years old who actually took out the condom. And not only that, when I told my friends, I found out that he actually did it to my friends as well. It makes me go crazy because, as a sex worker, I feel that I always need to know what's my sexual health. Taking a risk with someone who I do not know, who probably done this to many other people, make me question my sexual health, make me feel worried.
Stealthing, the act of removing one's condom without consent, was criminalized in Singapore in 2019 under the Women's Charter.
This thing has happened to me before it was made illegal. So to me, at that point of time, I just feel unsafe, But now, knowing that it's actually illegal, I have the power to stop all this harassment and assault coming to me as a sex worker.
The amendments made to the Women's Charter also criminalize the use of online platforms to facilitate the provision of sexual services. These harsher penalties for sex work-related offences are said to allow the police force more decisive action towards online vice.
While it does protect women, it does hamper how sex workers operate. It affects how we can advertise. They forget to account for workers who actually choose to enter this industry. So when I was doing this full-time for a bit, whenever I didn't get any bookings, I would actually get very anxious and a bit insecure about my business and about my looks, about my branding. It basically spiraled out of control for a bit. It affected my mental health because I was constantly anxious and on edge. Unfortunately, I was not able to seek help for escorting related anxieties because I did not want to out myself as a sex worker to any counselor for fear of being seen as being a threat to myself for engaging in sex work.
Doing sex work is mentally draining, physically draining as well. Because you know what? It's a job where you meet many different kinds of people and you take in their energy and you be their companion. You always have to be yourself and be real. I have been homeless before. I've stayed in a shelter. I do have friends who does sex work to be able to survive. If they do not have one client, they probably will not be able to pay the next day's rent because they are living day by day. I think that video is actually very informative. If you can put in someone to share experiences about that particular story, which is a sex worker who is volunteering with Project X. At the moment, I'm actually a normal board member in Project X. Project X is sex workers' rights organisation group in Singapore. Project X aims to provide sex workers with social, legal and emotional support. So this is like a safe haven for sex workers to come and seek help in terms of any situation that they may be in. It could be abuse by a sex worker. The reason why I opt in to be a board member is not just because I'm a sex worker, I really want to help my community. Be there like a guidance to certain issues, I may be able to have a voice and say if I agree to it or know certain situation that is happening at the moment. sex work is not recognized as a legal job, it means that we are not able to have access to insurance or housing funds. So what I feel that can be changed is if this was to be legal, you would see less of us being homeless, having a hard time to survive out there.
In order to eradicate this social stigma, I think the most important thing is education, awareness of how sex work can be seen as labor. And I do believe with the rise of OnlyFans, sex work is becoming more mainstream. And I would say this is just the beginning.
So this is actually a gas mask. When I use it, I will put something inside this bottle here. So it could be something that smells nice, something that smells naughty. And there you go. These are all my toys.